Jnana Shalakaya Chakshurumilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Jena Bhutale Svayam Rupakadamaham Dadati Swapadantikam Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Langhayate Girim Jatkapatamahamam Vade Vande Shri Gurum Vinataranam Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam bhavanebhyo vaishnavibhyo namo. Well, it's been a while since I've been here too. And this place has developed and the community seems to have developed. I've been talking in the last couple of years on Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu fairly frequently. And actually I started twice. I got to a certain point and for some reason I wanted to go back and start over again. So I guess I had a fairly good look at the beginning of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Plus, a few years ago, for about 2 years, we did that Nectar of Devotion workshop at our home. And it's, well, one thing that's become really clear to me is that we really don't have any life other than actually pursuing our aspiration for Uttama Bhakti. There are different kinds of bhakti, but what's being taught by our acharyas, by Srila Rupa Goswami particularly in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and what we are taught in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, when Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj has Mahaprabhu instructing Srila Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami and all the principles that are given, especially in the first parts of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, where Bhakti is discussed generally and where sadhana Bhakti is discussed. Is that, I mean, this is really, as Suchandra posted a really nice, what do they call them, update on Facebook today. Without sadhu sangha, there is no life, and I thought, well, at least no life worth living. It's not a real life. And those of us who've had some experience of life without sadhu sangha, even though for many of us it's a long time ago, we can still remember those. I mean, there were days where we felt life was empty, and I remember when I first. Well, just thinking. I remember when I first actually sat down. I first met the devotees in 1969 at a Jimi Hendrix concert in Honolulu. But when it was a little while later before I actually got close enough to the devotees to talk to them, because I was a little nervous. I had just been in the Navy, and after joining the Navy, I had determined that I would never join anything again, ever. So I would watch the Sankirtan party from the other side of the street in Waikiki. But this one night, my friend Turidas, who was actually one of the first devotees I had seen a few months earlier, back in May of '69, he was on the other side of the street. And so I was trapped. And so the next day I went down to Queen Surf Park for the Sunday feast. And Turidas sat down. He recognized me from the evening before and sat down with me and asked, started just friendly conversation. And then he asked me if I'd ever read Bhagavad Gita. And I said, well, yeah, actually I've tried reading about, I think 3 different editions, and I never got very far. I just couldn't. I think I was probably a little bewildered by the fact that it was just set on a battlefield. And Krishna was going to exhort Arjuna to fight, and I was trending very strongly pacifist at the time after my experience in the service. And so I was having a hard time with that. And the people who presented Bhagavad Gita, they couldn't help me make sense of it. So Turidas said, "Oh, have you ever seen this one?" So he gave me the little blue paperback abridged one. And I said, "Oh, no." So I thumbed through a couple of pages here, a couple of pages there. And after a few minutes, I looked at Turidas and I said, "This makes more sense than anything I've ever read in my life." And then, sometime later, and his response was actually really nice. He just smiled and said, "Does anyone here know Turidas?" Yeah. So, you know how kind of sweet and mild he is. He just smiled and said, "Yeah, if someone actually understands Bhagavad Gita, they can present it in a way that anybody who's a little sincere will get it." And then after some time, I started reading, when I moved into the temple, I guess, I started reading the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, which was all we had. And that just kind of turned my mind inside out several times. The first thing that caught my eye was in the purport to the second verse, Dharma projita kaitavotra, harmonia matsarahanam satam. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada is talking about the difference between material life and spiritual life. Material life is just a life of exploitation. And, you know, everyone envies everyone else. Everyone wants what the others have. And then he says, but the transcendental devotees of the Lord are non-envious. And they how does it go? They live to create a competitionless society with God at the center. And I remember thinking, oh my God, I found the revolution. This is what we were looking for. I found the revolution. And what I found was someone teaching Uttama Bhakti. Not Bhakti diluted with anything else. Because as we know from that second verse of the Bhagavatam, Dharma praujita kartavatra. The Bhagavatam begins, just as the Bhagavad Gita ends with Krishna telling Arjuna, forget religion, forget Dharma, flush it. Sarva dharman parityaja mam ekam sharanam vraja. Sarva dharman, because and this doesn't. I don't think that an instruction like that necessarily has the same import to us that it would have to Arjuna, because this is a man steeped in varnashram dharma. He was a Vaishnava, but he was living as a Kshatriya, and he had all these. That's how he got some of these wives, just because that was the dharmic thing to do. And the challenge in the, well, it wasn't that dharmic, but Yudhishthira was thinking. Anyway, but when Krishna told him, just completely forget dharma. Don't worry about any obligations you might have in this world or any ideas of what you think is right. Just surrender to me. Sarva dharman parityaja mam ekam sharanam. Take complete shelter of me. And this is kind of at the core of Sharanagati, of surrender. Accepting Krishna as our sole maintainer is the Swarupa Lakshana. Although some sampradayas say it's Rakshashatiti Vishwasaha, seeing Krishna as our protector. But the two things together mean taking complete shelter of Krishna. And he's your sole maintainer and your sole protector. So that's what that's how Krishna ends Bhagavad Gita, and the Bhagavatam begins right there. We're going to throw out all cheating ideas of religion. Anything that isn't directly about awakening and expressing unalloyed love for Krishna. Therefore, the scripture is for those souls who are non-envious, who are pure at heart. Pure at heart means non-envious. Satam means they're completely pure. They don't have any envy. So in the purport, Prabhupada had that sentence that I found so striking. So the Bhagavatam begins with, there's nothing going to be discussed here except Uttama Bhakti. There may be some peripheral things that we work our way through, just as Krishna presented so many ideas, so many philosophies in Bhagavad Gita. He was arguing with Arjuna from so many angles of vision, and then there was the knockout punch. But whatever I said before, that's cool, but forget it. Just do this because I say so. So the Bhagavatam begins by letting us know this is just about pure devotion to Krishna, and it works its way from the lotus feet, the first and second cantos, up to the smiling face of Krishna in the 10th canto, which, it's larger than many cantos put together. Was it 90 chapters? That's the core, that's the heart, that's the smiling face of the Bhagavatam, the smiling face of the Lord, and then you have the 11th and 12th cantos, his intelligence. But this is what the Bhagavatam is about, and this is our life. I mean, our life is meant to be lived in the Bhagavatam, which is why the devotees progressively develop relish for hearing those leelas. We hear those leelas after learning the tattva from so many perspectives as we go through those previous 9 cantos. And I remember being at some of Srila Ashram Maharaja's programs. There's one, the first time I think I went, after I first met him, I first met him in Kartik in 82, Srila Prabhupada's disappearance day in Vrindavan. Bhurijan Prabhu introduced me to him. And then I don't think I saw him again until 99 when he had a program in San Diego County. And the devotees, my friends there, were always imploring me, you got to go to Badger. And I'm thinking, I teach too many classes on three college campuses. When do I have time to drive to Badger? It's like 8 hours or something, And then it was L.A. I said, well, yeah, but L.A.'s 2.5 hours away. When do I have time to go there? I go to L.A. twice a year. Memorial Day for the Prabhupada Festival, and in August for Rath Yatra. Otherwise, I don't have time to go to L.A. And then he said, well, he's in San Diego County. And I said, grades are due that week. But if I get my grades in on time, I'll go at least to the last one. And he had built up through the week, starting with the 4th canto and the 5th canto and the 7th canto. And then when I got there, the last night of the retreat, 10th canto, Rasa Panchadhyaya. Krishna tells the gopis, "Na parayam." Your love for me makes me a beggar. There's nothing I can give you. And I'm sitting there thinking, Rasa Leela, just what they said. But I remember he made such a wonderful. Was anybody there? To San Diego. This was December of '99. This talk was so nice. You were there, Raghu?
I think I was there.
I know all the. Pardon?
It wasn't 2000, was it? Because that was at San Diego at the Franciscan monastery.
Oh, that was 2000 then?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was the one.
Yeah. And the kids from Badger were all there, and they were giving some performances. I remember they gave some really wonderful performance. But the point that he made with this, with this pastime from Rasa Panchadhyaya was Sharanagati. It was a wonderful thing. He turned it into this amazing lecture about complete self-surrender, and I was quite impressed, of course. And so this is our life. Sadhu Sangha. These 5 angas of sadhana bhakti that Lord Chaitanya. Srila Rupa Goswami repeats. He repeats these in that chapter of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And the way, I don't remember the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu verse, but I remember the Chaitanya Charitamrita verse, which is what I memorized first. Sadhu Sangha Nam Kirtan Bhagavad Shravan Mathura Vas Sri Mutira Shraddhaya Sevan. That's what we got going here. the devotees turn their homes into replicas of Mathura. I mean, look at this. And I remember, well, our temple room in Paradise Park was like, we had everybody's deities. Aditi's deities were there. Sometimes Jagadatri's deities were there when she was out of town. And Lord Jagannath was there, and our deities were there. And sometimes other devotees that were there, and it was like this, I don't know, it was a really cool room, And it was just so nice that even though it was back in the back of the house, the devotees would say hi, and they go down the hall to see who's here this week, So that the devotees, I see this happening here. That the devotees they turn their homes into replicas of Mathura, and they saturate them with transcendental sound, and they invite sadhus to come visit, and they invite all the devotees. I mean, this was the highlight of our month when we had those programs at our house twice a week. We'd have the devotees over to our house, and we'd be cooking for them, and we'd have kirtan, and the neighbors would be thinking, "Oh, Bill and Susan are rocking out now," And it was just so wonderful. And devotees would linger, for a while, and we'd be talking for a couple hours. After everything was over, we were still hanging out and talking, and nobody really wanted to let go. And that's how And I remember, was it? When Gopa and Mula bought that property, those houses, funky. Funky's what they are now, you couldn't lean against a wall in some rooms, and the floor was really frightening. And Gopa shored that floor up. I think his idea was 50 to 60 devotees should be able to dance out of their minds in that room. And still doing it. We see the devotees here turning their homes into replicas of Mathura, saturating them with transcendental sound, bringing the devotees over, associating with devotees. We hear Hari Katha as much as we can, Nam Kirtan, just hours of chanting. Sometimes, I know some of the programs that we'd have in Hilo and here as well, hour and a half, 2.5 hours of bhajans and kirtans, and you don't find that a lot of places, and such sometimes simple, but the instruction isn't gorgeous deity worship. Srimutira Shraddhaya Seva. You serve them with faith, with love, with affection. And we see that in the simple service that the devotees give to their deities. So this really is our life. It's all about developing Shuddha Bhakti or Uttama Bhakti. Nyabhilashita Shunyam Jnana Karmadyanavritam Anukulyena Krishnanushilanam Bhakti Uttama. We do, leaving all the other stuff aside, we do things with the intention of giving pleasure to Krishna. Do whatever we can, everything we can, and we try to fill our days with that as much as possible. And that's our life. And for those of us who have to work, these gatherings it's like a transfusion. Just hook me up, main line. Just drive that spike in there and just let it flow. I remember, what an oasis it was to, Saturday night or whenever we had something going on in Hilo or out here, to be able to go and spend a couple of hours with the devotees chanting, talking about Krishna, and honoring prasadam together. And this is not just our life. This is life. And this, we've got it here, and we want to increase like the critical mass, and just until we draw more. It's like when the mass increases in any body, it gets more gravity, and other bodies get drawn toward it. We want a black hole of Uttama Bhakti. on Hawaii Island. And so I just kind of came back to get a little more of that.
Haribol.
Vaishnava Sangha ki jai.
Ashram Maharaja ki jai.